Hello and welcome everyone to our Zoho webinar today. In today's webinar, we're going to be showing you some productivity boosting features that you should know about Zoho, and hopefully they'll improve how you use the system. My name is Grayson. I'm the technical sales engineer here at Topline. So I work with the tech and sales teams on things like demonstrations, trainings, and customer projects across the platforms we support, including Dynamics, Zoho, and HubSpot. I'm also involved in our internal product, Symphony Sync, in the development, customer support, and content creation. Now, in today's webinar, we're going to be taking a look at some of the new accessibility features that Zoho has to offer, as well as a new homepage activities component you can find on the classic dashboard. We'll then take a look at how we can now filter our list views by information in related modules. We'll then take a look at our field validation rules, which are a way where we can validate the data that's being entered into fields on a record before the record has been saved itself. And then finally, we'll take a look at Canvas record forms, which are different ways to display the data that's in any given record, both after the record has been created, as well as different options we can have for our record creation forms. With that said, let's jump right into the demo today. Now, the first thing we're going to be taking a look at today is going to be the new accessibility settings that Zoho has added earlier this year. These accessibility settings can be found under your setup menu right here in the top right-hand corner of Zoho, and then by going to General and then Personal Settings. Once you're on your personal settings, the accessibility options can be found under this Accessibility tab. Your accessibility options are split up into three broad categories. You have your vision assistance, you also have your motor assistance, and then also some features related to interaction. As for vision assistance, our first two options here are not functions we toggle on and off, but functions that are available at all times. And what these do are these are updates that Zoho has released to improve the interaction with different screen readers that you might have downloaded outside of Zoho, and also improve functionality with your browser zoom. So Zoho now has increased support for any browser zoom, anywhere from 25 to 150%. Below that, we can find some different options for font size. Now, the setting can be toggled here, but we can also use a preview of what these different font size options are. So we have anywhere from small, our default, large text, and then largest. If you'd like to save any of these settings, you can just click Apply down here. We also have a similar option for letter spacing. So we can have our normal text, condensed, expanded, or even wider text. And again, just like before, we can apply these settings if we like how they change. We also have the ability to magnify text on hover, which is especially important for those with some sort of visual impairment. If we turn this on, what this allows us to do is by holding the Alt key as we hover over text, we'll see that the text we're now hovering over is highlighted and magnified for us in this large text box. Again, depending on where we hover, the text inside this box will change. We can turn that back off just by clicking this toggle here. Below that, we have some settings related to motion control for those people who might have some sort of motion sickness or vertigo. Now, what these do is these change the animations that Zoho has for things like task pop-ups to be less alarming for, again, those people with some sort of motion sickness. Below that, we have an option related to how labels on switches display for us. So if we look at an example here, the typical switch in Zoho is going to be this on and off button, where if it's off, it's grayed out with the button on the left. And if it's on, the button now transforms over to the right, and we see this turns blue. Now, if you have some sort of color blindness where you can't differentiate those colors, we do now have the option to switch label styles. And what this will do is this will add some specific text under each label, letting you more easily see if a switch is turned on or off. As well, if we're looking at a record form where we might have some options that are disabled, either due to content or role restrictions. We can enable this strike through disabled buttons option. And what that'll allow us to do is when we're looking at any button that we don't have access to, so for instance, we have this preview here, we can see that these options that are disabled now have this additional strikeout overlay on them to more easily differentiate them from the options we are able to use. Below that is a different form display mode. So this is used when you're creating new records or filling out forms in Zoho. And what this will do for you is it changes the way forms are presented. So instead of presenting all fields to you on the form, you can turn this option on. And what that allows you to do is only show you the fields that are mandatory for that form to be filled out in order for that record to be saved. Again, just a different option Zoho provides you for varying ways to fill out forms. When it comes to those mandatory fields that we're talking about and things like forms, we can also change how they're displayed. So by default, we have this red line here that you might be familiar with for any of our fields. We can also add additional notifiers to those. So for instance, we can also add an asterisk that goes before that field label, or even we can have this required text down here in red, just to make sure that your salespeople or other users of the system have a cleaner differentiation of if a field is required. Now, one thing I'll mention, and this goes along with all our accessibility features here today, is that these features are set up individually for each user. So if one user changes their accessibility options, that setting is not changed for every user. If another user would like their settings to be changed, they would need to go in and update these settings themselves. Below that, we also have some different options for how we'd like error messages to display. So we can change the color of these error messages to another color, which might be important if you have some form of color blindness. And with that as well, we can also even choose to include an error icon with the message that we're looking at. Below that, we can also flash our screen on notifications. So if you get an message or you have a call upcoming and you have that pop up, we can also flash our screen letting us know that we have a notification. Below that is some functionality for landmarks, and this is used in relation to screen readers to help your screen readers differentiate the different areas of the Zoho UI. Hopping over to our motor accessibility options, the big ones we have here are our keyboard shortcuts, which allow you to perform certain actions quickly, and we can view all our shortcuts here. Now, what's really nice about these keyboard shortcuts is that you'll notice some options are in this darker gray, which means we can't change them. However, any of our keyboard shortcuts which have this white text on them, this allows us to actually go in and modify ourselves the keyboard shortcuts for any of these options. So in case we wanted to modify the shortcut to view the shortcuts themselves, we could go in here and input a new keybind for that. As well, we also have the ability to input keyboard shortcuts for swapping tabs, which are our different areas up here at the top. So here with this switch tabs option, we can add additional shortcuts. And this is especially important for custom modules, which aren't out of the box Zoho functionality. So if you have a module to record information related to servicing or properties you may own, we can add that specific module that you've added in custom to this functionality. Just below our keyboard shortcuts here, we also have a Zoho Zia voice assistant. Now what this voice assistant does is it actually allows you to speak to Zoho using your microphone and have Zoho perform certain actions on your behalf. So if we click view commands here, we can view some of the options that Zoho voice assistant has. So things like searching for a record, opening up your settings. We could also even edit record information, including specific fields. We could have it log a call for us, add a note, or even move on to another page or save the record we're currently working on. Now, in order to access the Zia voice assistant, we can either use the keybind available for it, which is going to be Control, Z, and V once it's been turned on. And that's going to pop up this prompt down here in the right-hand corner. We also have the ability to hit this microphone down here to enable the Zia voice assistant. Now, if you don't see the microphone, it might be hidden in this accessibility settings menu, and you'll just need to toggle on your voice assistant here. Show me leads. Show me leads. Now, there is a little grace with this as it is a newer feature, but we do have all the command options as noted here for things we can do with that voice assistant. Finally, we have some functionality related to how we can interact with the system. So the first is going to be this reading focus here. And what this reading focus does is it allows you to highlight specific areas around your cursor for enhanced focus. Now, there are some out-of-the-box options when it relates to size, as well as the ability to set your own custom size for this box here. And we can also set the opacity of the surrounding areas to this highlight box. Again, for those who might be easily distracted, this can help you focus on specific text that you want to be working on. Just below that, we have the option to underline any links. So if we turn this on, you can see here, this will highlight different pages we can go to, such as our modules up here, or even our other setting pages over here. This also works on our record pages themselves. If we have any lookups, we'll see this underlined text on those lookup fields. And then finally, just below that, we'll have the standard navigation order, which just like some of our other features and functionality, helps to improve the way your screen readers work. Next, we're going to take a look at this new activities homepage component. So like I mentioned in the start, this is available in your classic homepage, and this is available for everyone. Now, what this does slightly differently than some of our other homepage components is that we actually have the ability to jump between a bunch of different views for our activities. And again, those are our tasks, meetings, and calls. So we do have 4 out-of-the-box options here for the specific date ranges we're going to be looking at. So things like today, this week, next week, and the next 7 days. Now with each of these views, we do also give the ability to add some or update some preferences relating to these views. So things like if we want to show overdue activities or not in any of our views, if we show them, do we want to hide them at the top or do we want to hide them at the bottom? And then finally, do we want to show our all-day meetings? As well, for any of our activity types, we can also choose what information shows. So if we're looking at example, a task here, we can see our task name and we can see the status and priority fields underneath that. But if we click on manage fields for any of these areas, here's where we can see all the fields that are on our task modules, and we can choose to include or exclude certain fields. And again, that will put those fields underneath the activity in this line here. With these as well, we can mark as complete directly from this homepage, or if it's something like a call, we can even reschedule the call directly from our homepage without ever leaving. So some pretty cool functionality that Zoho has added with this classic homepage activity component. The next thing we're going to take a look at is the new ability to filter our list views by related modules. So previously in Zoho, for our filtering options, we did over here on the left-hand side filter panel have the ability to use some system-defined filters. So these are things like if a record has been touched or not touched in certain time periods, whether actions have been taken either on the record itself or against related records, and then also the ability to filter by specific fields on the record. Now what Zoho added recently is if we scroll down to the bottom, we can also filter by fields that might be on related records. And this is specifically child records. So if we're on the account view here, we can filter on information that might be from contacts related to that account, deals related to that account, or even our emails that happen to be related to that account. Now I do have some examples here of filters I've saved previously. For instance, if we want to take a look at all our deals that are going to be closing soon, we can add a filter for that deals module where we're just looking for all our accounts that have any deals where the closing date is going to be in that next 2 months. Now with any of these filters, we can also choose if we want to look for information without. So if we swap this over to without, This might be useful if we're trying to look at deals or accounts that we should be doing business with because we haven't been doing business recently. After we apply this filter, we'll see all the accounts who don't have a deal that's closing in the next 2 months. Now, some examples as well of information you can glean is if you are converting your accounts from leads that were previously in the system, we can also see that information as well. So right now, I'm taking a look at all accounts that were converted from a lead in the past. And we can see here that we have 25 accounts in our system that at some point were converted from lead records. This also can be useful if you're trying to come up with lists, maybe if you want to send a Christmas card as a thank you for doing business. So I can see here we have this filter set up to look at all our accounts who've had deals that have closed sometime in December of last year, just as a thank you for all those businesses we've been doing business with. Again, a lot of powerful things you can do with these new filter options. And like I mentioned, these filters are only able to be used on child records of your current module. So for accounts, that's going to be things like contacts and deals. But for contacts, you might only be able to look at deals in those related activities. Now, if you would like to look up to those parent records, you can do that by using something we showed previously in one of our webinars, which is going to be adding related fields from a parent record. Up next, we're going to take a look at our validation rules. So validation rules are a way where you can add validation before a field is saved or entered into the system. Now, this can be important if you're looking for specific values. So maybe we don't want to give over a higher amount of discount percentage based on certain criteria, or even if you have a field that requires specific formatting, something like an ISBN or a zip code. You can even include validation rules on those fields so that those fields and the values entered need to fit certain criteria before they can be saved to the record. Now I have two examples here today. One's relating to a discount percentage that we allow our salespeople to offer on any deal they're working on. And then also one related to an amount of the deal, where if the deal is over a certain amount, we want to make sure that the salespeople are sure they'd like to move forward with this deal because it is so high value. If we look at one of our validation rules here, we can create a new validation rule up at the top right-hand corner. And the way these validation rules work is they ask us to choose a field that's on the record. And then once we've chosen a field, so something like stage, we can either base it on a criteria. So for numerical values, this is something like an operator is greater than, is less than, or is equal to. Or we can even use a custom function using Zoho Deluge. And this can be used for things like making sure values stick to a specific format for that field. We can also change how we want to validate any of those information that's been entered. So whether we just want it to be on save, or if we also want to add a verification button so that your salespeople can validate these before they try to save on the record. For our discount example here, we can see what I've set up for this example. Now, when we're entering discounts or your salespeople are entering discounts, we want to make sure that these people don't go over a certain discount value because we don't want to be giving away too much for free. So what this allows us to do is based on that discount percentage and the values relative to that, we can change if we allow our salespeople to enter in certain discount percentages. So for instance here, when we're looking at new business, we don't want that discount percentage to be over 25%. And what we can do is we can give our salespeople an error message letting them know that, hey, discounts greater than 25% are not allowed on deals that are going to be new business. In the same manner, for existing business, we can also let the salespeople know that discounts greater than 40% just aren't allowed in the system. And then finally, just to make sure those salespeople are actually filling out that type, whether it's new or existing business, we can also include something where if they try to fill out the discount and that type isn't set to either new or existing, we can just tell them that, hey, they need to fill out that deal type before they can apply a discount at all. Now, if we take a look at our amount as well, we'll have that field validation rule where we give them an alert instead of stopping them altogether. So in our case, if those salespeople enter a deal with a value of over $100,000, we do just want them to confirm that deal amount is correct because that is a high value deal. Now let's just take a look at what that might look like on one of those deal records. So we have a deal here that we've been working on and it's getting pretty close to closing. Now, as a salesperson, I've been working on this deal and I want to apply a discount, let's say 30%. Now I've checked my 30% and I want to save it. I can verify it before I actually go to save just to make sure that this value is a valid value for this deal. And we can see here that, hey, I actually need to fill out this deal type before I can apply a discount at all. Now, if I go to apply the type here, and this is a new business deal, once I save new business, I can try entering that 30% again. And if I click verify, I can see that while I now get a different error than before, I still can't enter that discount value of 30% because discounts greater than 25% are not allowed on those new business deals. If I instead change this new business over to existing business, I see that if I type in that 30%, now Zoho allows me to enter in that value of 30% for those existing business deals. So that's that discount validation rule that we just touched on. The other type of validation rule, again, is going to be those alerts, which we've set up for our mount here. So if I'm working on this opportunity in this deal, and now suddenly the value of this deal has jumped to $120,000, if I try to save this new value of $120,000, again, which is over our threshold that we set for $100,000, Zoho will pop up this alert at the top of our screen here, just asking your salespeople if they're sure if they want to proceed with the value they've just entered. So for our example, that's a high value deal. So we do want those salespeople to just confirm that this is what they're looking to do with that deal. Now here, they can either click cancel and the new value won't be saved, or they can click proceed and the new value will be saved to that record. So now we can see we have a deal with an amount of $120,000. That's existing business with a discount of 30%. So those are how our validation rules work. Again, the type of implementation of validation rules can vary depending on your use case, but there are a lot of options available for ways to implement validation rules. Finally, today, we're going to take a look at some of our Canvas views. So these Canvas views can be accessed on any records. Again, whether we're looking at an existing record or we're creating a new record. So right here, we have this existing record for Michael Johnson. And this is the typical layout that Zoho provides, where we have all our information in one scrollable page with this related list over here on the left-hand side that we can use to jump to specific sections. Now at the bottom, assuming we have a Canvas view previously set up, we'll have this option here to view this detail page in a different manner. And if we swap to this Canvas view here, we can see that all the information on this record has been totally changed from the way we used to view it previously. So we can see here, we now have some information for this contact over here on the left-hand side. And instead of one scrollable section over here on the right-hand side for all the information on the record, we can now jump to different tabs if we'd like to view that information. Now, Zoho does offer a lot of templates if you'd like to leverage some existing functionality for these Canvas views. As well, all of these Canvas views can be fully customized to fit exactly the business process you're looking to implement, as well as including any fields that you've created custom to your specific business. In the same manner as well, we can also create Canvas forms for when we go to edit or create a new record. So if we do look to create a new lead record here, you'll notice this is your typical creation or edit form. But just like previously when we were looking at that details page, if we scroll down to the bottom, we can access some of our other additional form types. So if we have a Canvas view, this is where we'd be able to swap to that Canvas view down here. Now, just like before with our Canvas view, we'll see an entirely new layout type for our create or edit screen here. Just like before, we have some basic information over here on the left-hand side. And then the information on our record is now going to be over here on the right-hand side in scrollable sections. Again, there are a lot of out-of-the-box templates for these Canvas views, but these Canvas views can be fully customized to include specific information or exclude information altogether if you'd like to create a simpler creation form so your salespeople can be more focused while they're creating a new record. Now, these different Canvas views can be accessed if you have administrator privileges from that setup menu in the top right-hand corner by going to Customization and then Canvas. Here's where you're able to see all the different Canvas views that you have set up. So again, we have list view Canvas views, which were available previously, and then the new detail and form views for Canvas. Now, when it comes to those detail views, again, this is going to be used for viewing information on existing records. We can create our Canvas views here. As well as with these Canvas views, we can actually choose who we'd like to specifically assign these views to. So based on the profiles we have set up, or even layouts that we've set up previously, we can assign specific roles the ability to use specific canvases, or even set it as the default for specific roles. With this as well, we also have the ability to even create custom mobile pages for those detail views if you have salespeople who frequently use it on the mobile device. And then over here as well, we do have that ability to create those custom Canvas views for those forms. Now with these Canvas views, like I mentioned, Zoho does have a ton of out-of-the-box templates you can leverage, as well as if you have a template that comes from outside of Zoho, you can even import those Canvas templates into Zoho to utilize that functionality. We'll take a quick peek at what it looks like to edit a canvas. But what this edit menu allows us to do is see all the individual components that go into creating a different canvas view. A lot of functionality here, but the main things is we can take fields that were on the record and then move them over to this canvas view and then even adjust spacing and information like that. Once we're done with this canvas view editing, we can click save, and that'll save any changes we've made to the canvas view and then allow our salespeople or other users to use those canvas views on the records as we showed earlier. As always, I want to thank you for attending our webinar today, and I hope you learned something useful that you're able to take away from here.